Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. We have a bunch of bows here on the table, so I can go through as many of the pieces of the brand new 2022 launch from REDLINE bow hunting. Today we'll be covering all of their new gear that I have here on hand that I have been practicing and using since the month of January. So we're going on almost 4 months of testing for me behind the scenes, and I'm very excited to share my findings with you so far. Alright, so strapped here to my Athens Vista 35, I have the RL3 sight 3-pin model on the dovetail rail and the RL1 3-arrow quiver. So let's talk about the sight first. You can either get this in the dovetail version or the direct mount version. I like the dovetail, gives me a little bit more play when I'm practicing with peep sizes. If I want to use a small peep like this one, this is a 1/8 for 3D, I can move this all the way out and really shrink the size of the housing the further it gets away from my eye. Or I can bring it in closer, expand the size of my peep to a 3/16 or a quarter, depending on your eyesight, for when I actually go into the hunting woods and I need a little bit more light gathering through my peep and it's not in the middle of the day like I'm at the 3D course. The sight offers complete tools adjustment. At least for the gang adjustments, you do need Allen keys in order to move the pins, which is great. And let's actually talk about the pins and we'll work our way backwards. The 3 pins themselves are on a very fine wire, so the wire itself kind of disappears, which is nice because there are times where I struggle going from the indoor season, February and March, into the spring 3D season going into April and May like we are now, dealing with seeing a vertical pin all winter to horizontal pins, and I end up getting some weird left to right misses because I'm not used to holding that pin with that fiber optic on target correctly like I've been doing it for thousands of arrows for the past 3 months indoors. So since these are nice thin wires that go out to a 19 thousandths pin, they disappear and I'm kind of just left with the nice bright pin, which is very convenient for me at least when I switch from target to hunting and 3D and everything else. So let's talk about the pins though and what I don't like about the actual fiber optic. I've reached out to REDLINE and see if they're going to fix that. This is not what they're doing though for their first run. It might be a change later down the road. Their middle pin is actually an amber color, which is okay. Amber has been used in terms of that orangey yellowish color as a pin sight for years. However, it has almost exclusively been replaced by red. There are very few amber colored pins left. The reason being is that they don't gather as much light as red and green do in those low light situations, and on certain colored targets like brown orangey deer, they have a tendency to disappear. And particularly if you're hunting in the late morning or in the early enough in the evening and it's so bright enough outside, you'll get this nice green up top. It's kind of weird amber in the middle and then a nice green at the bottom. If you're like me and you shoot a lot of 3D and I shoot hunter class and I have to gap shoot, I am working on the gaps between my 20 and 30 pin. And if I'm focusing on that 20 green pin, it's nice and bright, I can see it clearly, and that amber colored one's just kind of not in frame, if you will, because it's kind of fuzzy and blown out, then I'm not getting my gap correct. Now, if I'm just going to go 30 on and go whole hog, no problems there. I'm focusing right on that amber pin. Will they change it? I don't know, but it's something that you need to be aware of before you go and purchase this sight. Continuing on with the scope housing itself, we do have a bubble level over here on the inside of the sight housing. That's a huge bonus. Some companies like to run their bubble on the outside, and you can't see it when you try to line up your peep. You do have threading here on the front for a sunshade. If you really wanted to, you could just take this off and go ahead and screw on a sunshade in that place. You also have the ability here on the backside to work with all of your windage screws. Everything on this is toolless, like I said earlier. So you have the wing nuts, and then you have micro clicks, both left, right, and up and down. And speaking of moving things up and down, going back to the pins for a second, when it comes to running a fixed pin sight like this, I always like my top pin to be in the center of the housing, just like you would see on a single pin sight when there is only one pin right in the center of the circle. Your eyeball's trained to pick that up, right? Put the pin in the center of the rings between the peep and the sight housing, and let it rip. And particularly in a hunting situation where stuff's kind of hitting the fan real quick, you have a burst of adrenaline and energy, your brain is going to automatically train in on what's ever in the center of your sight housing. So I like that I have the ability to move that down to the center of the sight housing and still have over a pinky width of gap between my 40-yard pin and the bottom. So if I really wanted to, I could run all these pins down really far and have a really nice long range setup, or I can run them as I'm doing right now, 20 in the middle followed by 30 and 40 going down. As you can see, the housing is drilled for a light. I took out the little push button twist lights that come with most sights these days, and I'm running my Lumipin, the mini version 2, I think, which is nice. It gives a lot of good brightness to the pins, an absolute insane amount of brightness. I don't even know if you can pick that up on camera or not, but it's a ridiculous amount of bright. And I really like that for the 3D course or when I'm doing the indoor scene and I want to be able to adjust the lighting of the pins to exactly the way I want it. Let's move back onto the RL1 quiver here, which I am a huge fan of, and I just wish if there was an adaptation or a 1 ounce modification, I think this quiver could absolutely blow pretty much any other quiver off the market. All right, so let's get into the main squeeze here, and this one complaint that I have with this quiver, and it's not a defect or a problem, it's just the way they designed it. I wish they added one more arrow catcher right here. Just give me 2 places, because if I grip it up here, the arrows pop out in the top. There are rubber keepers up there that are in a triangular pattern that you could slip a broadhead, a field point, mechanical, whatever you need to up in there. The problem is that with one good squeeze, they pop right out. I have field points on here right now, which are as deep as you can get without cutting, obviously with a broadhead, and they easily get popped out of the top. I don't like that. I wish they had a second catch bracket here or up in here. I could move it a little bit. It would add, what, an ounce or two, and I think it would hold the arrows in there a little bit more securely than what they're currently in there right now. Now, as you can see though, the huge benefit, at least for me, I have almost a 31.5 inch arrow with some of the arrows that I'm shooting. These Sirius Supernovas are 31 inches, and I can hide them entirely within the profile of this Athens Vista 35, which is great. I've shot a lot of bows, even my Elite Energy 35, which is a comparable size bow, is that the arrows are going to stick out one end or the other with different styles of quivers. With this quiver, because I can mount it using the set screw here, I can slide it up and down. I can really fit an entire full-length 32-inch shaft if I wanted in here. So for you big guys out there that are tired of your arrows sticking out one way or the other, this might be a quiver to look at. Now, the one cleat that's down here, it will accept a standard diameter arrow like this one, 204, and then there is a smaller hole in the back end of the groove for a 166 diameter shaft. So you can put any hunting arrow you want into this quiver, and it's going to grip it right. In terms of the mounting system, this bow it completely rivals the tight spot system. It rivals the Mathews Low Pro. It's actually even further away this way currently off the bow because of the dovetail bracket here for the RL3. If you were running the direct mount sight, I ran this quiver with the RL2 single pin, and it is so close to the riser it's not even funny, at almost half the cost of the Mathews Low Pro. And it still can clear the Hamskea Hybrid Hunter, even in its full cage. As you can see, I have the Hybrid Hunter mounted way back. It's part of my torque tuning process, and so in order for me to get this clearance, I have to move the quiver way back, which is great because now it's completely out of the way, and the profile is so slim. And since it's back and doesn't stick out far, the balance is still fantastic with this bow. I mean, this is just the webbing of the palm here and a little bit of thumb pressure to tilt it because it's going to go that way a little bit. But even if I push it that way, it still comes right back. Now, I don't have to run an insane amount of back bar weight in order to get that to go off. So again, at its price point, I think this quiver, particularly, just give me that little extra cleat, could be an absolute home run. On and off is very straightforward. Lift the cam lever, grab it, it just pulls straight back like so. So you have a very nice clean package here, a very nice clean package here, and this mounting block here has the ability to shift left and right. So if you do need a little bit of extra clearance, your rest comes out a little far, your riser's a funky shape, or it's really thick or really thin, whatever it may be, you can adjust this as well. I have it as close as I can on this bow, and that just sits right in the dovetail groove, cams that over, and then of course it's, it's not going anywhere. So even though I haven't been able to actually take this hunting yet, and this has only seen 3D targets in my backyard so far because Pennsylvania is still snowing here in the beginning of April, I really like this sight. I really like the dovetail feature. Love the tool list, micro click adjustment. That is fantastic. The price point on it is great. The quiver, add that extra cleat, and this would be my favorite quiver that I've ever had to date so far. So very pleased with both of these. I think they both have their niche in the market, and I think they can please a litany of different customers. So that's all for this video on the RL1 quiver and the RL3 3-pin sight from REDLINE Bow Hunting. And if you have any questions about any of the other REDLINE products that I've reviewed or any other products that I've reviewed in general, please follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook and Instagram. You can send me an email, averagetecharchery@gmail.com, or leave a comment here on YouTube. And I hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.